Hey, you remember that time you were obsessed with solar freaking roadways and then you found out they weren't real?
Yeah. Fuck
that was
them
some
too.
great time.
Fuck them
Talk
too.
about science fact.
Yeah.
You were sold on this, and then when it turns out scientists came and said, no, that's not possible, you were like, shit.
I still like the idea.
Yes.
But I was sold a bill of goods and they're liars.
Right.
I like truth in my science.
That's right. And that's the great thing about this upcoming web series is that even though it is a science fiction, they use a lot of science fact in it. And they also use a lot of practical effects, which is awesome, too.
Which is amazing.
And so we actually have with us on the phone right now one of the co-creators of Deep Six, Mika Collins. Welcome to the program.
Hello. Thank you so much.
So, Mika, tell us about Deep Six. What is the story? What are we going to be seeing when it comes out?
It is very much what you're saying is that it's definitely a hard sci-fi focused on the realism. But basically our story is we're looking at about 200 years in the future at the Tau Ceti system. Tau Ceti is a star that exists about 11.4 light years away that we're actually through a warp drive able to travel to. So we were looking at current warp drives like the Alcubierre drive and things like that are mostly now in theory. The first astronauts are sent out to the first deep space station, and that's our station Deep Six. And after a few months of studying microlife on a planet, there's some kind of accident that happens and they're completely cut off from Earth, and their whole transportation and communication system is broken. So they're cut off, they're stranded, they're running out of supplies. And that's kind of when the story starts.
So it's a feel-good story.
Yeah, real feel-good.
It's all happy. Everything is great.
Yeah, being stranded in deep space, that's very it's heartwarming. That's what it is.
It's a deep, hard comedy.
Now, you're one of the co-creators of it with Davin, is it Lengyel?
Lengyel.
Davin Lengyel.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. Don't worry.
Yeah, so the two of you have created this. How did you guys come up with the idea?
Well, here's the thing. Davin came up with the idea when he was about 8 years old.
So a lot of production, a lot of pre-production for this.
Yeah, a lot of pre-production, 40 years. No, he's not that old, 30-something. So he pitched me the idea saying, like, I need a co-writer because this is really big. And we'd been writing together on a different web series, kind of a light sci-fi. He was producing, I was brought on as a writer. And then he's like, listen, I have my own one. I'm almost funded. I'm working on the funding. And his feeling was he'd produced a ton of web series. Like, he's the Space Janitors guy, if you know Space Janitors.
Oh, right, yes.
So he'd written some of that. But for Deep Six, he's like, I need a writing partner because it's going to be, not only did he want it to be like real science, but he wanted the story and the characters to feel really real. And I'm sort of more known for being a character relationship writer. And I'm like, where he's the space nerd, I'm the story and character nerd. Like, I'm very, very geeky about real characters and real relationships. So he's like, I think if we combine forces, this could be a good thing. That was his pitch.
That's fair, right? It's playing to each of your strengths. Yeah. That's gonna really good. That's gonna really help out, And I noticed that, of course, that you got Christian Brun as part of the cast.
Yeah.
We of course have had him on the show. We've known him from, of course, Orphan Black. Yeah. So it's like you got Tamoa Pennicat in there as well, and he
was amazing from Battlestar.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at this and I was like, you got some good pedigree here. Like, this is looking to be quite the endeavor. Deep space endeavor.
I know. I was really blown away that we got some of those people because Tamo I didn't know personally. I'd met him once, very briefly, enough that I was able to get him the script. And his agent and our casting director was like, guys, he's not going to do it. And we just sent him the script, and he called back within an hour, and he was like, I'm totally doing this. And we're like, Tamo, we don't have a lot of money. We're a little web series. We're like stretching our budget as much as we can. And he was like, no problem. Get me on a plane. I'll do it. And that was pretty awesome.
That is
That's
sweet.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you got a project like that where people are like wanting to be involved, like that's fantastic. Now with this series, of course, Michelle Morgan stars, and you, as well as being co-creator, are one of the stars of the show.
I know. What was I thinking?
And so, is it difficult to balance, the different hats when you're working both in front and behind the camera? Is there any point where you feel like you're not working on the show? Or are you always working on the show in your mind in some capacity?
No, it's totally crazy. I don't recommend it. I don't know how people do it. So my hats were writing, producing, and acting. And the problem is when you're writing and producing, you can be the asshole writer who comes with rewrites like the day of. So I was like writing every night and reworking stuff, and then doing all the producing things, like just basically, I wanted to just make sure that our cast and crew were okay. So mainly I'd like run around trying to feed them on set. And then the acting was just trying to switch brains and not be in a scene worrying about my other actor. Is everyone okay? Do they need anything? Is the ceiling going to fall on them? And then just trying to be in my character. And that, I can't tell you if I accomplished it. You can watch it and you'll have to tell me. Mika, you didn't pull it off. Or, you're okay.
So there's more of that actor insecurity happening.
Yeah, because none of those options were, you knocked it out of the park. That was fantastic. It was just like, yeah, you're okay, or no, you didn't do it. Come on, have some pride. Have some pride, Mika.
All right, we'll see. Maybe it'll be brilliant.
There we go.
We did have a really great cast, so I'm pretty excited.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, the thing that really I got excited about this is that, and since you mentioned that Davin is the big space nerd, I'm guessing he was the one really pushing for this, is the heavy use of practical effects in this, actual sets, the miniatures for all the spaceships and everything like that, and then the rear projection. Very, very 2001, as it's been mentioned in all of the information about this. Was 2001 kind of like an inspiration for the show?
Oh, I think definitely. Yeah, because they were really trying to be real, and real before they even knew some of the things that they were doing is actually what turned out to be true. So they were sort of projecting a reality into the future as well as adhering as much as they could. But yeah, the practical use of effects it was so awesome. Everything was built. All of our sets were real. We had like real living quarters that were tight and small and felt cramped because we're on an underground moon base. Like, as cool as it is to have, Davin always says this, as cool as it is to have like a floating spaceship, it doesn't make sense energy-wise. Like, all our scientific advisors were like, no, you would never do that because you want to, there's radiation, there's all kinds of stuff. You want to like get a base on a moon or a planet. And so we picked a moon that actually exists and is in orbit around the Tau Ceti star, and built our sets as if they were an underground base. And that was awesome. And the ship was real. And so you get to, like, as an actor, we got to like climb in the cockpit, and all the lights and buttons were real and labeled. So you actually had to know what they were, because you couldn't I just wanted to press all of them all the time. And they really had to rein me in. You just ejected. Don't press that button.
That's the thing, it's like the Sulu school of acting back in the day in Star Trek. You just push buttons and see what happens. Yeah. The fans, though, once they start watching the show, the diehard fans that will exist, they're going to be the ones that going, no, you did hit the eject button. Everybody's dead because of you.
Yeah, and Davin is so writing for those fans. Like, he's writing and directing for those hardcore sci-fi nerds who pay attention to that stuff. So that's really fun, but also really hard to be the co-writing partner of someone who's like, nope, that wouldn't happen. Nope. And I'm like, oh, God. So the limitations were paramount, but also really fun to work with.
That's interesting, because you're talking about limitations in the script, and then you've got the physical things that are limiting because of the small spaces and stuff, limiting your movements. Like, for you as a writer and an actor, like, what was like those confines, as limiting as they are, did they help you with creating some new and interesting ideas?
Oh yeah. Yeah, very, very much so. Like, one of my favorite episodes is when, and this was when Davin pitched the idea to me. He had this episode in mind, and we really tried to preserve it. It almost got cut, but I was like, no, this is one of this. I love this one. So it was working within the limitations. There's an astronaut who, I won't spoil the end, but he wakes up. He's been unconscious. He's floating in space in his suit. He realizes he's been hit by a stellar flare from Tau Ceti, and he's been severely radiated. So he's got radiation poisoning. He's just coming to, and he realizes he's tethered from his ship, but he's only 50 feet from his ship. Like, he's so close, and the whole episode is just him trying to bridge that tiny distance in the real ways that you would in space. Like, you can't move. Like, unless he has something to project him, he's just floating 50 feet from his ship, and he'll die that way. So that was a limitation of, like, we had to look at all the real things that you could do. And we were like, oh, okay, we'll puncture a hole in the suit. But we have a scientific advisor, the astrophysicist Jamie Matthews, and he's like, no, I know they did that in The Martian, but it actually wouldn't work. Like, you have no control over direction, and you would die very, very quickly because you lose all your oxygen. So all the solutions we tried to come up with, we were like, no, that actually wouldn't happen. So we finally came up with something, but the limitations made it such a fun episode.
Cool.
Yeah, because space is frictionless, right? So it's like there's not much you can do.
No.
So now I'm interested. That's going to be an episode I'm going to look forward to now, because I want to know how you guys got around that problem.
Yeah, it's really fun.
We just got an email from an Emma H. who says, "Hi, Mika. I love your work, and I love your accent. What city were you born in?"
Oh, that's cool. I was born in a village in South Africa. And then I grew up till I was about 13 in Cape Town, South Africa, and then I immigrated to Canada when I was 13. So I've been living in Canada, in Toronto, mainly Montreal, ever since. So I have a hybrid that nobody recognizes. People think I'm trying to do a fake, weird Irish accent, I think, most of the time.
Well, see, now that you say South Africa, it all makes sense, right?
It all makes sense, right? You're like, oh, I knew it.
Yeah, because but living in Canada for any more than a few years, you're going to start to lose that accent to some degree. So
yeah.
It's going to hide it a little bit more.
Yeah, well, because the Canadian accent kind of smooths all the edges off.
That's right, eh?
So I was like, hey, how's it going there?
It's right, eh?
That's right.
It totally does.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we totally do that here.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's so true. I had an audition the other day, and I for some auditions I have to go in with a good, strong kind of North American sound, because they do get scared away by accents still, unfortunately. And so I always remember, put the R's on the end of your words. So, like father, mother. So I said my name. I just let my name, and I said Mika Collins. And I was like, oh, my God, that's not where the R goes. So embarrassing. Yeah. So, Mika, if you're really mad at me, you can call me that.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. But that's the background. Good question.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, of course, Deep Six, you guys just wrapped principal photography just recently, correct?
Yeah, like I think a week and a half ago.
Right. So when can we expect to see this web series hit the interwebs?
Soon, I hope. So Davin, who directed the whole series, is also editing it. And I believe we're looking at end of May.
Okay.
I believe that's when we're aiming to launch. We still have one more episode to shoot.
Oh.
We're going down to Arizona, to Yuma, to shoot in the desert.
Nice.
And it's the final episode of our season. It's very exciting, and if I tell you anything, it will totally be a spoiler. But we're shooting in the Star Wars desert. When Davin was 8 years old, his parents go down to Yuma a lot, and he walked through the desert with his brother, and they came across the Star Wars set. And we have a picture of him in front of it as an 8-year-old. And I think that's where this idea sort of started, which is pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah, it's not surprising. I think Star Wars is where a lot of science fiction nerds have come up with their ideas for scripts.
For sure.
Totally.
Well, Mika, I want to thank you for coming on the program. Of course, is there a website or anywhere where people can check out on updates on the on Deep Six?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got two places. I mean, we've got a deep. So all of our social media is Deep Six Series. So we've got Deep Six Series on Twitter, on Facebook, and a website, Deep Six Series, and an Indiegogo campaign as well. So lots of places if you do a little digging.
Perfect. All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on again, and we look forward to Deep Six.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Such a pleasure.
Have a good night, Mika.
All right. Take care. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.